Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with California Ag Network, reporting to you here today with Tom Jones from the Safe Food Alliance. They have done a great job making sure that growers and processors are ready for the Food Safety Modernization Act that's coming. You know, it's here. We've got a couple of years in some cases to be able to prepare for that, right?
Yes, that's correct.
One of the key things, though, is especially for the produce safety rule, is testing water. And there's some questions in the industry, I think, for some people wondering, well, what do we need to test? What do we need to test for? And wanted to talk to Tom about those requirements and answer some of those questions.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for giving me this opportunity. I know one of the confusing points that has come out is what water needs to be tested. Water that is considered agricultural water under the produce safety rule is water that will touch the harvestable portion of the crop. So if you're doing, for example, a tree crop, such as nuts, if you're using drip or micro sprinklers that don't touch the harvestable portion of the crop, that water is not something you have to worry about. You would have to focus on things like the water used for foliar sprays. The first farms have to comply with the water requirements by 2022 based on the farm size through 2024. And it's important to know that now that you have a few extra years for compliance, this is a good time to start doing a little bit of water testing, looking at your water delivery systems and seeing if you can identify any problems. One of the things you would be looking for, the main thing you'd look for, is generic E. coli. And be sure that if you're working with a lab, they help you in terms of analyzing the data as well as any questions you have on sample collection. The data that you collect is used to establish some mean numbers and control chart numbers that will then be able to determine whether or not you're in compliance. Most of the water in this area we think will probably be in compliance, but if it's not, there's some calculations one can do for die-off based on time, and one can also treat the water as well.
Great. Now, you mentioned tree nuts, but what about some of those other commodities, like you said, through like carrots, for example?
Right.
That water's going
Correct.
right on them, but the nuts, for example, you said that water could be coming through fungicide applications and things like that. So that really applies to most commodities out there, right?
That's right. When it comes to the foliar sprays, pretty much every crop would be using agricultural water that would have to be tested and monitored. In terms of other crops, row crops, things like berries and so forth, if there is water contact with that crop during its growth cycle, then yes, you would have to test that water and include that in your monitoring programs.
Let me ask you, are feed crops, for example, since they're being consumed by animals, is that an issue?
I don't believe those have been on the list. If you look in the rule itself, there's a list of commodities that are rarely consumed raw and those that are raw agricultural commodities. And it is, for the most part, human-based foods.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom. Read more about these things in our publications in the coming months. Again, my name is Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.